Hi, I'm Mike Douglas with the Maine Primitive Skills School. First, we want to troubleshoot the debris hut you've already tried to sleep in. If you find that you have cold feet, you want to take a lot more debris and put it inside as far back as you can kick it in, and then add more debris to the back of your hut, especially if your debris hut looks like a ramp instead of a loaf of bread. The second problem people have is that they feel that the ground is much too cold. This indicates you don't have enough debris underneath you. Instead of kicking leaves into the far back where your feet are, stuff the corners all the way around, all the way up to the end where the opening of your door is, and then build up to the ridgepole and cram yourself in. You want a big pile of debris, even after your body's compressing it, between you and the earth. The last piece is people feeling cold overall. There are two reasons for this. One, your door's too big. That seems to be the most common reason. The other reason is that there's too much space inside of your debris hut. In this case, we've built rafters as far back as our hips and crammed those rafters with debris to get rid of this triangle here. In the case of the door, we're going to build an igloo door. The first thing we're going to do is get measurements for our igloo door. Remember, the purpose of this door is to make the opening smaller so that our body heat doesn't escape quickly. Hot air expands away from the cold source, and so the cold source is the earth. Picture your head losing most of your body heat, by the way, right here, where all of that heat just escapes out into the universe. To slow that down, we're going to start off with two forked sticks. To place them, I'm going to sit so that my knees break the plane of the doorway, and right where my hips are, I'm going to plant my sticks. Now, I've broken each of these sticks so that they are just below kneecap high when I plant them. Just make sure this one's in tight. We're now going to put a cross piece forming our arch. This is going to be kind of rickety until we have the whole thing together. The weight of it, like an arch collapsing in on itself, provides the stability. The next piece are these downward beams, if you will. I want you to note how there's a branch coming off and where I broke this. The reason for this arrangement is so that I can slide my piece in and hook it to the cross piece without it sliding. We're going to take a few of these. Again, they don't have to be too big. Here's a subtle one, just a little nub from a leaf scar. And we're going to stick them in to our debris as close to the opening as we possibly can get away with until we have enough to support debris. So, we've gotten all of our little beams across here, and now we're ready to add ribs to the side so it looks a little bit more familiar to you. We want these to be as steep as we can possibly get away with, and sometimes it helps to get them in the ground a little bit. I'm going to break this one off the sides. And just like the regular debris hut frame, we're not worried about laying them exactly side to side. Now that we have our ribs on either side, I'm going to take some of these forked sticks and just kind of weave them in at a 45-degree cant in order to reinforce the stress points. Now a little lattice work of fine branchlets around here, and we're ready to put on the debris. Now that we have the lattice work on, we're going to throw on our debris. Now, we're going to jam debris on either side, but it's also important to contour it so it reaches up to the peak of our original shelter. That way, if it rains, a good rain like we're going to get tonight, we want equal amount of runoff and not a leaky shelter door. So, we've stacked the debris all the way to the top of where the original peak of the roof was. We've also crammed debris inside on either side and on the floor, and just patted it down with our body as hard as we could. We're now ready to talk about some concepts around the debris hut. This igloo door is going to slow down the circulation of air inside the shelter as your body heats it up. What happens is the air will escape even with an igloo door, only it escapes at a slower rate. When it does so, this creates a draw, or suction if you will, of cold air coming in low. If you use a log like this, half buried in the ground, both at the front of your igloo door and at the end of your igloo door just before your entranceway, that cold air has to rise up and over to get into your shelter, slowing that circulation down even further. The last piece we're going to work on is the door plug. We're going to make a hoop door plug. In order to do this, we are going to have to cheat and use a cutting tool. In this case, it's just a shard of rock from an old rock wall. This clump of willows will do nicely. If you ever want to use trees that bend into hoops, think of those trees that make good bows or baskets. The ashes, the maples, for instance. Since rocks don't cut wood, we're going to have to abrade. One of the tricks to cutting larger pieces of wood with rock is to not try to cut all the way through, but to score around where you want that cut to occur. So we have our willow, and what we're going to do is create a hoop door plug by bending this willow so that it fits tightly inside of that opening to our shelter. Remember our measurements. Everything is from kneecap to the ground, and so we're going to start our bend with that in mind. I like to start where it's thickest, near the base of where we cut, so that we can create that hoop by training some bend. Now, if you use something other than willow, like ash, for instance, it might tend to crack on you, but as long as it doesn't break all the way through, you should be pretty good. I'm going to size my hoop now that I have it. Again, making sure that it's just under knee height before taking these thin pieces and winding them around. They're fairly malleable and can be trained to hold any shape. The last part is the weavers. I'm going to fill this void, make a second hoop, and then we'll sandwich debris between them. We just want enough weavers in here to keep the leaf material from all leaking out. So we're going to put these together like a giant hamburger. It's important to note that you want to put twice as much debris in here as you think is necessary, because you're going to lose half of it by tying this all into one piece. We're going to take some more willow, and we're going to use these little shoots here to weave the top and the bottom together. Alright, it's starting to rain. I'm going to bring in my debris with me, my door plug. This extra debris is to chink up any holes that might occur, and I am going to stay nice and dry while our cameraman gets all rained on. See ya! Alright, one last modification that's worth mentioning. Having your door opening at the chest level. So if I were to lay down, as if I were inside my shelter, the door opens right about here. This makes it a little more difficult to get inside, but it also makes it more difficult for your escaping body heat to go out the door and into the universe. Your head is surrounded by leaves, and the hot air has to go up, fill that narrow void before finally and slowly exiting out that side door. Now, a side door is harder to build, but it's a lot more efficient at keeping that body heat inside. Much warmer.